And welcome back to the Midday Show. I'm Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina. We're going to talk about the flooding across the state, specifically in Philadelphia this morning. It caught me by surprise. We're also eventually going to talk about the Texas law banning abortion at the 6-week period. We're going to tiptoe and wade into that pool as well. And then last but not least, should Mark do Philly's naked bike ride in 2022? Before we have a little bit of fun, though, we're going to hit some of those. But before anything else, Mark, how are you feeling today?
Well, I will say this. There's a little fly. It's like, he looks like the size of a fruit fly, but he's quicker than a fruit fly.
It's killing you, isn't it?
And it is driving me insane.
Yeah, I've been watching you over there.
I'm going to get one of those blow torches, and this thing will be dead before I open that door again, because now I have him trapped. But no, you are petrified to discuss the Texas abortion laws. The flood.
Yes, we're going to talk about the flood
first.
Was
the biggest, non-weather related news story of the day, and we should touch on it. I'm not trying to, piss people off and cause controversy, but we should discuss.
We can wade into it. I mean,
you're scared.
We're going.
I get it. We'll be delicate.
Taking this from NBC Philadelphia, I-676, I-76, the Kelly Drive and Martin Luther King Drive were closed Tuesday morning due to major flooding on the Schuylkill River. I will be honest with you, I had no idea this was going on until 10:30 today.
I didn't know it was as bad in Philly until you told me it was as bad. And then you showed me the pictures. Also, I want to mention, you spelled Schuylkill right without even looking it up.
I did, which I said to you, I said, how do you think you spell Schuylkill?
And I was very wrong, and you got it.
Which is somebody, not to make light of the flooding, but one of the funnier things that I saw this morning is someone said the only good thing about Philadelphia flooding is that we are going to get to see national newscasters trying to pronounce Schuylkill, Manayunk,
Conshohocken was one of them.
And I forget what the other ones were. So I thought that was like a positive spin to put on it at least. So here I have some photos up for you. I don't know how great you're going to be able to see them, and I will do my best as far as telling you exactly where these places are. The neat one, the first one that I want to show you is a bridge. So this is a normal day, and I'm going to put down the banner here for a second. So this is a normal day in Philadelphia. I think I showed this to you. This is one of them that you saw beforehand.
You showed me this one.
So this is a normal day in Philadelphia. And this is what it is like currently right now. Your first reaction was you couldn't believe people were still trying to drive over the bridge.
I mean, the Slabtown Bridge washed out. Bridges wash away. If this thing washes while the people are in it, they're all dead.
Yes. I want to say this is the, it's not the Greenville Bridge. I believe it's called the, Green Lane Bridge is what it's referred to as.
News to me.
So if you want to see more pictures and stuff like that, look up the Green Lane Bridge. You can see where the watermark is at. I had never thought about the bridge actually washing away. I know that sounds so simplistic, but you're right. Bridges do, the center of the bridge.
I'm not worried. When I said, why are these people on it? I'm not worried about the water rising over it. I'm worried about it give way and all of a sudden the bridge is floating.
Because even the strongest bridge, the weakest part of the bridge naturally is the center of the bridge. It has to.
Well, just underwater, it's still on stuff. I can't believe this is totally suspended, and just water. People don't appreciate the force of rushing water.
I do.
You might.
I do.
But you're smarter than most people.
I don't know about that.
If this thing gives. And it's not going to break all in a big piece and it'll crack and then parts will chunk off.
So again, that's what it looks like on a normal day. And then this is where we're at today. I believe this is right outside of downtown Philly. I did have pictures of Manayunk. I don't have them on here though. So if you get a chance, the Manayunk photos are pretty bad. Manayunk, for those of you who don't know, when you're first driving into Philadelphia, it's on the left. It's kind of like a younger crowd of Philadelphia.
Okay.
It has a really good kind of bar district down through the town. So Manayunk's pretty brutal. And then for anybody who has ever had to drive on I-76 or I-476, this is what it looks like right now. Kind of when you go down, you're not beneath the city, but you're kind of sunken in down below as you're driving through the middle of Philadelphia. This is what it looks like right now. It is pretty much a river.
Correct. And Philly is a huge. There are so many universities there, and how many kids just got there? because of COVID the year before, how many kids are showing up for the first time, whether they're freshmen or sophomores. And now all of a sudden they have this. You have stats. It's the highest the Schuylkill River's been since 1869.
I want to say it's 1869. They're saying, so obviously it's historical flooding. Originally they had said for over a century. Now
that's 150 years.
Now tracing it all the way back to 1869. This is coming from Fire Commissioner Adam Teal. Said that this is the highest level since 1869. So here's the crazy part. This was, when he said that, it was still rising because he gave this report right away in the morning. It was expected to crest around 10 a.m., according to the Weather Channel. So hopefully the worst as far as like the levels is over. But I mean, who knows how long it'll take for the water to secede.
Right.
And then you're talking about cleanup and just, I mean, it's brutal.
No, what a disaster.
That's the part right now, like even with Hurricane Ida down south and obviously now with the flooding up north, it's not like the instant it happens is obviously awful, but it's like it's the after effect and the cleaning up and everything else is.
Well, the fact is, if you don't clean it, everything that's wet and all structures, you have to get them cleaned and dried relatively quickly or they're ruined.
Right. NBC Philly also said 6 to 8 inches of rain fell across parts of the Philadelphia region due to Ida throughout Wednesday and heading into Thursday. And
when we say 6 to 8, the flood that we had in 2011 and a lot of the Susquehanna River that comes up through like down from the Binghamton area. The Susquehanna River goes up in north and east. Right. And that Binghamton got like something like or span. So what they got yesterday was essentially what caused our flooding here 10 years ago.
Yes.
When you get that much at one time, it just has nowhere to go.
150 years is like the
that's a long time.
That's that's a lifetime.
And when you think of the nor'easters that we've gotten, this isn't the first big rainstorm that's hit.
No. But I mean, it's like when I say it's a lifetime, like people lived and never saw between now and then.
Generation and generation and generation. It's
pretty crazy. So obviously people in Philadelphia are being urged to stay home, try to avoid roadways. And obviously you can see on NorthcentralPa.com, we have something about the Wilmore Dam overflowing yesterday outside of Cambria County. We also have road closures. We had school closures yesterday, which that's kind of done and over with. But obviously, go to NorthcentralPa.com for all your coverage. The aftermath of Ida. Is that what we're calling it? Aftermath of Ida?
Yes.
All right, let's tiptoe into this. This is, I will just say, full disclosure, because like we talk all the time, like thinking out loud and like, honest to God, like the topics for this show are decided. You come in and you'll say, I saw this last night, or I saw this morning. And I'll say, I saw this last night, I saw this morning. And we'll kick a few things back. Today, right before the show, I'm like, anything else you can think of? And you like shoot up and you're like, oh yeah, the Texas abortion law. And I kind of looked at you and I was like, so you want to talk about abortion on the show?
Well, I said, yeah, we should talk about that. And you're like, should we? Like it's historic. I mean,
it's historic, and I think it's definitely worth talking about. You are much more willing to dive into the murky water than I am a lot of times. Once we get going, I'm fine, but you're always much more willing. Like, yeah, let's do that. See,
this is just I don't pull up the controversial topics to try to start controversy. No, I think we can have intelligent conversations about these things, and the law that was passed in Texas. It's complicated.
Do you want me to read off some of the basics?
Well, here I'll just give you the cliff notes, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
6 weeks. After 6 weeks, it doesn't make it quote unquote illegal. They have to be then the abortioner. The abortionee, the woman having the abortion. And I think also, don't quote me on this, but I think the clinic that provided it then has to be sued by a private citizen.
Okay.
So basically what they've said is they've created, the people that are against it have created, like they're saying the government has now created vigilante justice where they're like, you're supposed to rat at the other people and blah, 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 blah. But again, at 6 weeks, the practicality of it is many people, let me rephrase, many women don't know at 6 weeks that they're pregnant, especially if it's their first pregnancy, especially if they've irregularities in their menstrual cycles and things like that. Mm-hmm. And so it is certainly the biggest blow to Roe versus Wade. When people talk about states' rights, this is the part of states' rights. Now, depending on whether you're on the right or the left, this is what many of the right have been pushing for years. The left, some of the memes that I've seen that's come out since then is people were complaining 2 weeks ago about the rights of women in Afghanistan, and now all of a sudden they come back here and we're reducing the rights of women in Texas. Right. My favorite, George Carlin had a quote from George Carlin. He's been dead for a while, but back when he said the Republicans are very concerned about children from 9 months before birth until birth, but once they're born, they said you're on your own and fend for yourself. So each side comes at this from their own perspective. One of the other ones I saw is Texas ranks in the bottom 10 in basically child welfare stats. So the other aspect of, I think Utah was the best state to raise children in, and then one like the Dakotas and things like that. But the other argument becomes, if Texas is so hell-bent on having all these children born, then shouldn't they take better care of the children that are born? But no matter what side you're on, no matter what your political bent or your theological bent or anything like that, there is movement, and this is the biggest movement against Roe versus Wade since Roe versus Wade came in.
There's different ways to go about this. One would be, and we've already talked before about Texas is unique, the polite way of putting it.
Well, it's its own country for a while.
It is. There are things about Texas that I am like overwhelmingly, I'm like, God, like Texas just does some things great. And
the Dallas Cowboys.
No, Dallas Cowboys not being one of them.
Sorry.
But then there are things with Texas that sometimes I'm like, what are they doing? Like, what are they trying to accomplish here? The part of this that I disagree with is the idea of they try to draw the lines very narrow as to every pregnancy is the same. And that's the part of it that I disagree with. I think pregnancies vary. I think what happens to people and how they get pregnant varies. Their outcome and what's going to happen if they carry it to term varies. Pregnancies are so different. And what I really disliked about this is they almost confined it to one. They try to treat it as if everything is the same. If you are pregnant, then you are the same as that person that's pregnant, and you are the same as that. And that is probably the thing that I like about it least. Like, to me, like as a registered Republican, that almost goes against the grain of a lot of the things I believe in, that my situation could be different from your situation and I should have the right to. And this, they try to bubble it up, kind of like bundle it as if like they're all in the same group, and they're just not.
And
pregnancies are different.
We should say, who better to talk about pregnancies than you and I? I mean, we are experts.
See,
obviously.
My favorite part is when I give a disclaimer, I'm very serious about it. But when you give a disclaimer, you love to use like satire and irony. Like that's your disclaimer of saying
that just hit me when you were talking. I'm like, yeah, we're the pregnancy experts. We should be talking about. But it is a valid point.
But pregnancies are different. And this, if you go through and you actually read this, there's not a lot of wiggle room for happenstance. There's not a lot of wiggle room for like different carries of terms when you find out your pregnancy, all those things. They just kind of bundle it up and just be like, if you're pregnant, you're pregnant. And I don't know. That's the part of this that I disagree with the most.
Well, the thing is, as you go back, it would be fascinating to get a statistic as to how many people, especially, I mean, you're with abortion, you're talking, you're not talking married people in their 30s who've had 2 kids. You're talking teenagers, mostly, I would suspect. And that's just I have no statistics on that, but that's a total guess. But
sure.
it's my logical. And so these kids who have never been through pregnancy before, and it'd be fascinating to find out how many of them got to 6 weeks before they had any idea they were pregnant.
Well, I mean, that's the startling one, is kind of like the clock, like the time limit on it. First of all, it's not 6 weeks. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's 6 weeks is typically when the first heartbeat is heard, like the first cardiac activity. 6 weeks is just what I think it is on average. So that's something. So
that I don't know.
See, that I don't know either.
Which is shocking because we're experts on pregnancy.
Yes, we are. But the point I'm making is that the language in this, if it is 6 weeks, it goes along with kind of my point of like it's different. There's no way that every single first cardiac activity happens at the 6 week mark.
I get what you're saying.
So I'm pretty sure the actual bill is like, once you hear cardiac activity, on average, I believe that is the 6 week mark. But it goes along with your point of there are people who just have no idea that it's even happening yet. And so the idea of, being stuck is, I don't want to say being stuck, but the idea of like, you're now limiting your choices just seems awful. Well, the idea of now, like, this is the path you are on and you do not have a say in this path.
One of the other things that I read, and this is, it doesn't take a genius to know this is the American way. They said, you tell me that if one of these Republican lawmakers who has money and influence and their daughter gets pregnant or their granddaughter gets pregnant and they want to have an abortion, you tell me they won't get one. They'll get them to a different state. They'll get them to somewhere else where they have the means to do it. So it's that's one of the other things that people are saying about this. You're passing this law for everyone else, but if it happened to you and you wanted it, you would go find a way to get it anyway.
Yeah. I feel like that happens with everyone.
It happens in every aspect of life.
I feel like that happens in every single aspect of it. So anything else that you want to touch about that?
No, I mean, it just happened, and
I think
Aaron messaged me about it last night and said, like, should we write up an asset about it? He goes, I know it's Texas, I know we're North Central PA, but it's historic. And we kind of kicked it around and said we would come in and talk about it this morning. And so I just kind of let people know, because in my lifetime, I think, was Roe versus Wade 72?
I don't know the exact
I was born
year.
in 71. I want to say it was early 70s. But this has been a talking point that there have been the pro-lifers who have been, banging this drum for a long time. And I don't want to say we got numb to it, but there's so many threats and so many court cases and so many this. So when this news came out, I just thought we should mention it.
As of right now, Georgia, Mississippi, Kentucky, and Ohio have also passed heartbeat laws to ban abortion once cardiac activity can be detected by an ultrasound scan. So Texas is not the only state that has these heartbeat ones. The wording, the litigation within the law is what makes
it unique,
the most harsh.
Okay.
But they are not the only state to actually have a heartbeat law. So I think from a political side of it, the part that is
Ohio was interesting to me when you just rattled off that list.
Ohio was surprising to you,
just because it was northern and more. It's a swing state essentially.
Okay. I think, I mean, the funny part about abortion is when I talk to a lot of people, like when we're just having like our thinking out loud conversations after like a drink, I've noticed that they like to make it seem as if it's like very party affiliated. And I'm not saying that one side doesn't support it more than the other, but if you talk to people privately, like if you're with a group of friends or a group of stuff like that, it's not as party affiliated as you would. There's a lot of Democrats that would support an abortion law, and there's a lot of Republicans that would believe in freedom of choice, and they would say like, no way. So I think it depends who you're in the room with and who you're talking to. And obviously it sways one way in like the public and society, but I think it's a much more divisive, like people cross lines on this more than anybody would realize.
Well, I think when you get people into a private, rational conversation,
right,
people cross lines a lot more than they would ever admit publicly.
Regardless of the
topic.
I don't disagree with that at all. So I think, again, going back to the whole thing with Texas and like the other states, I think that this is the idea of it passed in 4 other states. And obviously people knew it was happening, but there's something about this idea. Texas is so large, and Texas just stands
Everything's bigger in Texas.
everything. And there's this idea that if Texas is able to like pass it and uphold it, it's almost like that is the beginning of the path, right? Like now this is like, it's really happening now if Texas passes it. And I think that's why right now is the moment. That's my opinion.
You know what else is special about Texas?
What?
Everybody's exes live in Texas.
I thought for sure this was going to be some type of like Dallas Cowboys comment.
Oh, no, I already used the cowboy joke. This is our year, though, by the way. I don't know if you're aware of that.
It is not your.
This is our year.
So here, now that we've gotten.
Why would you say that?
Should Mark do Philly's naked bike ride in 2022? Go ahead and tell us the story. You can find it on NorthcentralPa.com. Philly's naked bike.
Yeah, I actually wrote it up. I stumbled across this. I didn't even know it was a thing.
Yeah.
And then that's the neat thing about the internet. You stumble across these things you didn't even know it was a thing. Apparently, like 20 years ago, somewhere in the world, it might not have started in America. It might have started in Europe. It sounds like a European thing.
Can I say the website real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
It is the website, if you're interested in looking it up, is worldnakedbikeride.org.
Yeah. I don't know if that one's still. You can Google search it. You can find all this. But anyway, so they started out as a way of promoting, like, you can ride your bike places and not burn up fossil fuels.
Okay.
Then it morphed into a body, like anti-body shaming. How do I wrote it in the article and I can't remember what I wrote. Like body, I don't know what I'm looking for, but anti-body shaming, like to promote comfort in your own skin, basically.
Sure.
And I wrote it yesterday and I can't even remember what I wrote. So that's how much I, but anyway, so it started, it's gone around. Apparently it's in like, they've had them in 20 different countries, more than 20 different countries, more than 70 different cities. Philadelphia, they've done it every year since like 09 or 08 or something. It's been over a decade. Okay. They didn't do it last year because of COVID, but it's back. And apparently in the US of A, they have them in Chicago, they have them in LA, they have them in all over the place.
Right.
Philadelphia is second biggest year in and year out to Portland. Portland, Oregon has the biggest. And Oregon is a hippie state. Like Oregon's different. But they don't have exact numbers because there's no registration. There's no entry fee. Right. It is just people get together and ride. Right. And there are different levels of undress. You don't have to be naked.
Sure.
You also don't have to ride a bike. It's anything that's non-fossil fuel. So you can skateboard, you can rollerblade, things like that. Now, I am not a skateboarder. I am not a rollerblader. I do have a bike that I ride. However, my first thought in this is, well, here are my first two thoughts. A, isn't this illegal? And what they've, in doing the research, it is indecent exposure is very gray.
Okay.
And the courts have essentially tagged indecent exposure with some sort of act, usually an act of like sexual gratification.
Okay.
Because I read an article a while ago that a lady got charged. She was on her riding lawnmower topless. Okay. And they're like, that's indecent exposure. She said, my husband does it all the time. Why is it? And I think she won.
Okay.
So anyway, so apparently just being naked in public is not necessarily deemed indecent.
Okay.
And so these rides go off. Although, like I said, all the people, some of them are in underwear, some are in bathing suits, some are in body paint, things like that. So that was my first thought was, isn't this illegal? My second thought was, wouldn't this be incredibly uncomfortable? And that is the one I just don't see how riding your bike naked would be comfortable.
It could be refreshing.
I could see rollerblading, skateboarding.
Okay.
It's just the seat and the nakedness.
No, I get your point. I would say, as far as the indecent exposure goes, the first thing I think I said it to you, is like, do they get a permit? Like, they must have to do something. However, I'm still confused how, like, the lady you told about being on her tractor, she's on her own property. So to me, there would be like a sense of like private domain, like, would come into that. But this, like, they're riding their bike through public properties.
Oh, they ride all around town.
So
and one of the funny things, they make a different route each time because they said so we can see different places. Like, wait a minute, this is your sightseeing? I don't know. That made me laugh.
That's pretty good. So that part, I mean, listen, I don't want them to get in trouble. I don't want it to have to end. I still can't wrap my head around the idea how this is like legal without a permit. Like if they get like a 1-day permit from the city and it's like this thing, I totally get it. But if they get no actual permit from the city and like they're just able to do this, I don't know how you couldn't define it as indecent.
They think they just did it last week and there were like 1,000 people. That the first time they did it, which was, like I said, 08, 09, something like that, they had over 2,000 people participate.
Okay.
So as we said, year in and year out, it's around 1,000-ish. At least it's a 4-figure number.
Right.
Second only in consistency in the U.S. department.
Crazy. Okay.
So I get how it happened. I just don't think if you had 1,000 people naked rollerblading, I would say okay. Like if you're rollerblading,
because you think that would be more comfortable.
I think it would be much more comfortable.
I mean, the obvious answer is yes, but I'm trying to play devil's advocate. I don't know. I mean, there is something to a bike. Like people like to bike. Like you get to sit.
No, I get it.
Like I'm just saying.
The most uncomfortable part of biking is the hard seat.
You think so?
Yes.
Some people. You don't think some people have like special seats? Like you don't think
you get a beanbag chair on the top? I don't know how.
No, I'm just saying.
I don't know.
Interesting. Would you do it? 2022. No. No. Not even think about it.
I don't think I would.
Okay.
I mean, let me rephrase that. No, I wouldn't. I don't. I just don't. Now, I would say that this is a stupid story.
Do you want to put a wager on it? What do we? No.
I mean, I was like, no.
What if we got to 5,000 Facebook members by the bike ride in 2022?
If we got to 5,000 Facebook members who are giving me $5 a piece, then I would probably.
5,000 Facebook members. Would you do the naked bike?
I have funny naked stories that I can tell you.
Okay.
So when I was on the radio in Baltimore, back in the early 90s, when I started 94, summer of 94, yes, it was the strike year, there was no football in Baltimore. The Colts had gone and the Ravens hadn't come back yet. For those people who are young, do you remember that the Colts started in Baltimore?
Yes.
They left in the 70s.
They left in the middle of the night, didn't they?
And there was this belief that Paul Tagliabue, or was it, I don't know, the NFL hates Baltimore. They're never coming back.
Okay.
And the guy I hosted with told people, because people were like, oh, with expansion and we could get it. And he said, the day that the NFL comes back to Baltimore, I will run naked down Pratt Street. And Pratt Street in Baltimore is the main street right by.
Okay.
So when they did it, he had a fundraiser and they called it the Naked Run. Now, nobody was naked. They all had like swimsuits or underwear. But there was a group of people who ran around town and just so that's my one story. Okay. My other story is my buddy Pat Reedy, who is a local legend, who is a huge Notre Dame fan. It was, I want to say New Year's Day, it was when Notre Dame played Colorado in one of the bowl games. And this is back in the days where all the bowl games were still on New Year's Day.
Okay. So
he lived in an apartment above Johnson's Cafe. You know where Johnson's is, right there on Broad Street in Montoursville.
Yep.
It is a ghost town because it is New Year's Day. And he says, this is when Rocket Ishmael was there.
Right.
And he says, if Ishmael runs this one back for a touchdown, I will run down Broad Street naked.
Okay.
Rocket Ishmael, touchdown. He goes flying down. He was much more nimble back then. He was flying down the stairs from the apartment. He is ripping off hoodies. He is ripping off. And I will never forget Kimber Watson, God rest his soul, leaning out the window. He's like waist up out the window. There's a flag. And all of a sudden, Pat, like a child who has just been reprimanded, puts his head down and he's walking around the street picking up his clothes as he is like half undressed. And they called it back on the flag. So if either A, there had been no flag, or if Kimber had just held on for a couple more seconds, and who knows what Pat would have done and how far he would have ran. But That is it.
That's
So yes,
pretty good.
would you do the naked bike ride?
Well, it's funny because Heather just said, why doesn't Jeff do the naked bike ride? It seems like you always want Mark to do the dumb stuff. Here's what I would say. The reason I feel like you would have to do it is because you found this, you wrote the article.
I am the...
I'm just saying, like, this was your baby. Like, you found this and everything else.
This is not I stumbled across it. Does that mean you have to rebuild the dam in Cambria? Because...
No, but I didn't like, I'm not promoting it as like this great thing. I just gave facts about the dam.
I didn't say it was, I said it's a thing.
I'll go to the what is it, Wilmore Dam.
You're going to rebuild the Wilmore Dam?
Well, it's not broken. It failed.
It just went over.
It just went over.
Okay.
But I don't think I would do the naked bike ride. I could see, like you said, like, could I see like me and like a buddy doing it in like a Speedo or something, or like something? Because you said like they're not all naked.
Oh, would I do it in a pair of shorts? Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, I'm just saying. So like I could probably be tucked into it. Like we used to go to like around holiday time, we used to buy like really cheap Santa suits on Amazon because like you can find them on Amazon for like $10. Like you can find like these cheesy, and we used to like go around to the bars with like just like the Santa no shirt, just the Santa jacket, the Santa outfit, the hat, and we'd like go out to like the bars and like make fun of the situation. But I don't know if I could do like a full naked bike ride. I will say this, it helps that it's in like Philadelphia. Like I feel like it helps you're with a group of people. It helps that you're doing it. It helps that you're doing it in a major city because it's not like you're doing it through your hometown. Like it's not like you're riding through downtown lanes.
You could get body paint. They have people that'll paint you. Paint by a stranger.
They do. That's like a thing.
Oh my God, yes.
You say it like I'm supposed to know. Like I've been to the.
Don't you read my articles?
Like I've been to the naked bike ride and I know how this stuff works.
I think it's something you should.
Something I should consider. Something I should look into.
You and your girlfriend. What a bonding moment. The naked bike ride. There you go.
I don't think she would do it. I'm trying to think it like I definitely have some cousins and I definitely have some friends who would do it with me. But there's also those people in your life that you just know, like there's just no way.
Would any of these people do it sober?
Yeah. I mean, by the end of it, they wouldn't be sober. They would start sober.
Would they start sober?
I think some would.
Okay.
Yeah, I think some would. I think some people like it's something, A, it's something to do, and B, like it's just not a big deal.
Well, I think that one of the things I read is one person who's done it a bunch. I think it was she, I can't remember, but said there's always anxiety until I get there.
Yeah.
And once I get there and I see everybody else, it's not that.
Right.
Well, okay, so let me rephrase. Yes, I would absolutely do it, but I doubt that I would be naked. Okay. I would do it in, a pair of, boxer briefs or something like that. Okay. Yeah, that wouldn't really faze me at all. But what I wanted to, and we've joked about this with the comments section on North Central PA is, there's the article and then there's the comments. And there are people who are just, this is disgusting. These people are perverts. And then there's one that says you should have more pictures. The one guy that just quoted, "You fat bottom girls, you make the rockin' world go round. Get on your bike and ride." So like it's funny to me, and it goes back to the great quote that you have. I know you credit Ricky Gervais. I don't know if he's the first one that said it.
Yeah.
You find it offensive. I find it funny. That's why I'm happier than you. Yes. And when you see these articles and how there are some people who their mind just immediately wants to get angry with whatever it is. Yeah. And the fact that there are 1,000 people riding their bikes naked around Philadelphia, if that angers you, then you're going to have a very anger-filled life.
Yeah, for the most part. I'm more interested, like I told you, like I'm more interested in how they just, I don't want to say they get away with it, but it is, I mean, is it just like a strength in numbers thing? It must just be a strength in numbers. Because here's the deal. If 3 people were going through Philadelphia and they claimed they were doing the naked bike ride of 2021, I mean, they're getting dragged over, they're getting a fine, and they're being told to go home and put on some clothes.
Well, and it would be interesting as to like what percentage of people are really naked. Maybe of the 1,000, maybe 500 of them are clothed in some aspect.
Right.
And we've seen like with body paint, like we've seen in the swimsuit issue in Sports Illustrated, where they're naked, but you can't really tell because the body paint's so good. So I think probably if you ask, and we're not legal experts, but is it a misdemeanor? Is it a fine? And to go through and to arrest, 500 people and then traipse them through the court system so they pay a $75 fine for a slap on, it's probably not worth it. So you're right. Maybe if there were 2 people, they would do it.
100%.
But for 502 people, it's not worth the hassle.
If you and I went and did it, we'd be having to talk them out of why we shouldn't have to go get help. But because there's 2,000 people doing it the first time, now it's
there's probably a lot of truth to that.
Yeah, there's a ton of truth to that. Anything else you want to touch on before we head out for tomorrow?
I wore my Yankee shirt and they won. I don't want to take all the credit, but I think I should get some. I mean, Garrett Cole did strike out 15 guys, so he should get some credit too. Okay. But I think I should get some.
That's fine. I'll give you some. Somebody, who was it yesterday? Someone commented and said you looked like you had your
Navy.
Your Navy shirt, like your. That was
Joe.
pretty good.
I usually like Joe too. I didn't like the Navy shirt, although I told you, people have told me it looks like a pilot. I don't know why. I told you I had 2 Yankee. For some reason, I don't get new Yankee stuff anymore. I used to get it all the time, and now it's been a long time. But I had one that was different. It didn't have those things. It was just more plain. Yeah. But I spilled something on it. It was white as well, and I stained it, and it's gone.
That's it. All right. Thank you guys for watching the Midday Show. Thank you to all of our sponsors, and be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com for all of your.
We got a new sponsor today.
News.
We'll touch on it later. We don't have the paperwork signed, but I did the phone call this morning.
Awesome.
So
Fantastic. So we'll get back at it here. We do know this winter we're definitely doing the Christmas giveaway again.
The Christmas wheel is coming back.
We're going to bring back the Christmas wheel and the Christmas topics, and we're gonna hit up that again. So we're gonna get back at it again.
We're gonna have some fun now that again. And I know when school starts, the world comes normal again, and we're excited. I mean, summer's great.
Yeah,
but.
Life
Life is simpler in September than it is in June, July, and August. There's no doubt about it.
Yes, it is. All right. We'll see you tomorrow.
Absolutely.
I'm Jeff Everett. He's Mark Messina. Have a good one.
And that fly is not dead yet.
Not yet.